Right. So today we're diving deep into an article called 8 Signs She Wants You to Touch Her.
Okay.
Most men miss.
Interesting.
And, you know,
Yeah.
this is one of those things where it's like, okay, we're going to have some fun with this.
Yes.
But we also want to make sure that everybody knows
Yeah.
we're not telling anybody to like run out and do anything.
Right.
We're just kind of analyzing this as like a cultural
Absolutely. Like a piece of culture.
a piece of content that's out there.
Right.
And seeing what it has to say about communication.
Yeah.
So with that being said, let's jump into it.
Okay.
So
yeah.
the first thing they talk about is specific compliments.
Oh.
Not just any compliments, but like compliments on physical attributes.
Okay.
You have strong arms.
Interesting.
I really like your hands.
Okay.
What do you think about that?
Well, you know, it's interesting to think about compliments as a way of sort of subconsciously expressing what we find attractive.
Interesting.
Right. So if someone's really drawn to
right.
your physique,
Yeah.
they might be more likely to give a compliment.
Yeah.
That's very specific. Like
right.
that it's not necessarily a conscious decision, but like our brains might just zero in on those things
That's fascinating.
that we find appealing, right?
So it's like our brain is saying, I like that.
Yes.
I want to be closer to that.
Exactly.
Without actually saying it.
Yeah, it's like testing the waters. It's a way of gauging reaction
Yeah.
and potentially opening the door to more physical interaction. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then we step it up a notch. Being invited into her personal space.
Okay.
So like being invited to her home, which I mean, I would have to say,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big
It's a big one.
step right.
Oh, yeah.
Like to me, if I'm inviting you into my home,
Yeah.
there's a good amount trust there.
Yeah. Our homes are like
Yeah.
extensions of ourselves, right?
They are.
They're our personal sanctuary.
Totally.
And inviting someone into that space
Yeah,
signifies a level of intimacy,
it really does.
a willingness to like
Yes.
let them into your world.
And I also think like there's like
Yeah.
when you go to someone's house
Mm-hmm.
versus like meeting them in a public place,
Right.
there's like a different
Different energy.
energy, right?
It's
You're like
something
letting
that's
someone
really-
see like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It suggests a deeper level of comfort and
Yes,
connection,
yes,
desire to share something more
right.
private and intimate.
So it's definitely like
Yeah.
a green light, not a go sign,
Right.
but it's a
A good sign.
good sign.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Pay attention.
All right.
Oh,
So then we get into like breaking the touch barrier.
okay.
And they talk about like the accidental
The accidental tip.
brushes and touches.
Yeah.
So like reaching for something at the same time.
Yes.
And your hands graze.
Yeah. It's interesting how these seemingly insignificant gestures
Yeah.
can actually be quite deliberate.
Right.
Think about it. We are wired to be aware
Right.
of our personal space.
Yeah.
So any breach of that,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
even a fleeting one,
Yeah.
registers
Like
on a
that.
subconscious level.
So it's like testing the waters.
Exactly.
Like
A
that-
low-risk way
It's
to
a very-
gauge comfort levels
It's
and
comfort.
potentially escalate physical intimacy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If the other person stiffens up
Yes.
or pulls away,
exactly.
that's your cue
Red flags.
to back off.
Yeah.
But if they reciprocate,
Yeah.
even subtly,
Right.
that could indicate
Yeah.
openness
Yeah.
to further interaction.
Okay, but I have to say,
Yeah.
I'm immediately thinking like
Mm-hmm.
cultural norms have to play into this.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
For sure.
Huge point. Like what might be considered
Yes.
a harmless touch
Yes.
in one culture
Right.
could
Be
be
different.
totally different in another.
Yeah, another culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, cultural context is essential.
Oh.
Absolutely essential.
Will,
Interpreting
are
that
we
line,
recurring our
Yeah.
body language?
like recognizing these cues.
Yeah.
But we have to be super aware
Yeah.
of the context.
The context is everything.
Okay,
Right.
everything.
So now let's get into
Yeah.
like some body language stuff.
Sure.
So they talk about,
Mm-hmm.
leaning in,
Oh,
open posture.
body language is fascinating because
I'm getting flashbacks to like
yeah,
my high school psychology class.
it often betrays our true feelings,
Okay.
even when we're trying to mask them.
Right. Our body is like
It's like a window into our
is
subconscious.
different,
that-
revealing our desires.
Yes, and intentions.
Then our mouths are
Through these subtle shifts
right.
in posture,
Yeah.
gaze,
Yeah.
movement.
So like if you're leaning in,
Yeah,
you're engaged.
exactly.
If you're leaning back,
Leaning in signifies
everything, Chris.
and a desire for closeness,
Right.
while leaning back suggests distance or discomfort.
Interesting. And they even talk about
Oh, and it's not
foot direction.
just about the upper body.
Foot direction.
Even the direction of someone's feet
What?
can reveal where their attention is truly focused.
Really?
Absolutely.
I'm going to be staring at everybody's feet now.
It's a subtle
Okay.
but powerful indicator.
Yeah.
If someone's feet are pointed towards you, it
Mhm.
suggests their
Okay.
attention is fully on you. But if their feet are angled away,
If my feet are angled away from you right now,
it might signal that they're mentally or emotionally checked out
that means I'm done
of the conversation.
with this podcast.
Right.
No, I'm kidding.
Right.
Okay, foot direction added to the list.
To the lids.
All right, now I got to ask you about this one.
Okay.
The accidental bump.
Okay.
So you're walking along
Mm-hmm.
and you bump into her.
You bump into her.
What's happening there?
This ties back to the idea
Oh, okay.
of playfulness
Yeah.
as a way to build rapport
Okay.
and establish physical comfort.
Right.
Right.
So it's like
A gentle nudge,
a little test.
a light brush while walking side by side.
Yeah.
It's all about creating those brief moments of physical contact
Right. So it's not
in
even
a sweethearted way.
really about the bump.
Mm.
It's about
Right.
how they react to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about creating that playful dynamic
Okay.
and seeing how that other person responds.
Got it.
It's a way to gauge their comfort level
Okay.
with physical contact
Yeah.
and their willingness to engage in that type of playful banter.
Okay. So like
Right.
so far we've talked about a
Yeah.
lot of little tests.
Yeah, a lot of these little tests.
Right.
Right.
All these little ways
Yeah.
to gauge
Interest. Comfort level.
in comfort level
Yeah.
without being super direct.
That's the beauty of nonverbal communication, right?
Yeah.
It allows us to express interest
Right.
and explore boundaries
Yeah.
in a more nuanced and
Yeah.
playful way.
And I think especially when you're first
Especially in the early stages of attraction,
meeting someone,
people tend to be more cautious.
you don't want to
Yeah.
come on too strong.
Yeah, and you want to test the waters.
So let's talk about
Okay,
leaning in.
leaning in. All right.
So you're sitting across from someone,
Yeah, imagine this.
maybe at a table.
You're having a great conversation.
Right.
The energy is flowing.
Yeah.
And she subtly leans towards you,
Oh,
almost as if she's drawn in
okay.
by the gravitational pull.
So it's like a nonverbal way
Words.
of saying,
Right, I'm comfortable.
it's like she's saying, I'm comfortable with you being closer
With you being closer to me.
without actually verbalizing it.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
It's a nonverbal cue
Yeah.
that invites the other person
Right.
to match her energy level and perhaps move a little closer as well.
Okay, so you don't want to
Here's the key.
misinterpret that as like,
It's crucial to respect her space.
yeah, come on, too strong.
And not make any sudden or aggressive moves.
Right, you don't want to be like, oh, she leaned in, I'm
Oh,
going
yeah.
in.
You don't want to misinterpret the signal
For the kill.
and send the wrong message.
Right.
It's about reading those subtle cues
Yeah.
and responding in a way
Yeah.
that feels natural
Okay,
and
yeah.
respectful.
So, like,
Not lunging across the table
instead of lunging across the table,
like a hungry lion.
we're kind of matching her energy.
Exactly.
Oh, really?
Mirroring her energy.
Right.
Matching her pace.
And building on that connection gradually.
Got it.
That's the art
All right.
of responding to these nonverbal invitations.
So the next one, tactile humor.
Okay.
So using touch as like part of a joke
Mhm.
or a playful interaction.
Humor is a powerful tool in social interaction.
So like a playful tap on the arm.
And when combined with touch,
Oh,
it
the
can create
lighthearted shove.
a sense of playful intimacy.
Right.
Right.
Like I'm thinking
It's
like,
like disarming
oh, your shirt's messed up.
any potential awkwardness,
And you go to like
making physical contact
fix it for them.
feel more natural.
Well, you're really
lighthearted.
not fixing their shirt.
Mhm.
You're just trying to touch them.
It's about weaving touch
Right.
into the fabric of your interaction.
So it's like
And
a
a
way
wa-
to introduce touch.
That feels fun and playful,
Yeah.
building rapport.
Without being too foreign
Comfort.
through shared laughter
Okay.
and lighthearted gestures.
So we've talked about a lot of ways to kind of,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
test the waters, gauge interest.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to bring it back
Yeah.
to something that we talked about a little bit ago, which is like,
Yeah.
you make a move,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's subtle
Yeah.
and they pull back.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do?
Well, being attuned to the other person's cues and respecting their comfort levels,
if there's any hesitation
there's paramount,
or discomfort,
right?
that's
Even if someone initially seems receptive to touch,
you gotta back off.
Their reactions can change
Right.
depending on the situation,
Yeah.
their mood, or any number of factors.
So not just about, like, going for what you want.
It's about being present in the moment. It's
Figuring out
about
what for.
reading those subtle signals
Really understand.
and responding accordingly.
Yeah. The other person.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
And their boundaries.
It's about being constantly aware
Yeah.
of the other person's nonverbal cues
Yes.
and adjusting your behavior to match,
I'm like,
right?
my mind is blown.
Yeah, it's a dance.
Right.
It's a delicate balance
It's like
of expressing
you do.
interest,
There's so much more.
being sensitive to the other
Right.
person's needs.
And
And sometimes that means taking a step back,
Yay.
even if it feels counterintuitive.
It's like a whole nother language.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I feel like
It's a whole other language.
we've only just scratched the surface here.
And we've just scratched the surface of this
Yeah.
complex world
I feel like we could go on for hours
of body language.
about this.
And romantic cues. We have so much more to uncover.
We'll have to save that
Yeah.
for another deep dive
And I can't wait to dive deeper into
Yeah.
these fascinating nuances.
of nonverbal communication with you.
Right.
All
Until next time, we'll see you on the next deep dive.
right. Sounds good. So,
You know what I'm thinking about
okay.
is we're looking at this article
Mm-hmm.
that's talking about like
Mm-hmm.
signs a woman wants you to touch her.
Right.
But these seem like pretty universal principles.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
While the source material has a specific focus,
Yeah.
the underlying principles of body language and nonverbal communication
Right, Dave.
apply across the board.
Yeah.
Whether it's a budding romance
Yeah.
or a professional interaction,
They're
we're
not
all
constantly digging.
sending and receiving
Right.
these subtle signals.
You still have the same language.
Yeah, it's like we're all speaking the same language,
Different
but with slightly different dialects,
dialects.
depending on the context.
Right. Okay. So before we went on that little tangent,
Oh.
we were talking about,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah,
making sure you respect boundaries.
absolutely.
Right.
Without a doubt, it's
Okay.
about being respectful,
And like someone's showing hesitation.
responsive, and recognizing
Yeah.
that not every invitation is a guaranteed green light.
Right.
Even if
Wow.
someone initially seems receptive,
Okay.
their comfort levels can shift
It's not about
depending on the situation.
like
We're
mood
pushing those boundaries.
or any number of factors.
It's about really
Understand.
understanding and respecting.
Yeah, it's not about pushing boundaries. It's about
So this whole time,
understanding and respecting them.
we've been talking about this in the
Mhm.
context
Yeah.
of like romantic attraction.
Right.
But couldn't this apply to like
Oh,
other areas of life as
This
well?
stuff isn't just for the dating scene.
Think about
Yeah.
job interviews,
Like if you're
networking events, even everyday interactions with
Right.
friends and family.
right.
Being able to read those nonverbal cues
Yeah.
can give you a huge advantage
And you see someone
in understanding the dynamics at play.
like leaning back with their arms crossed.
Exactly.
Stuff like
Or
that.
if you're trying to connect with a new colleague
Yeah.
and they're maintaining steady eye contact
Not into it.
and mirroring your body language,
Right.
it could be a sign
Okay, so this is like
that they're open to building a rapport.
it's all
Like
the-
having this extra layer
a cheat code.
of insight into
have-
what people are really thinking and feeling.
Right. You're like,
Yeah.
I can read your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
if our listeners out there are like,
For our listeners who are totally fascinated by this
okay,
and want to become body language ninjas,
I want to learn how to do this.
where do they even begin?
How do we start?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, it's about cultivating awareness.
Okay.
Start by observing your own body language. So, how do you hold your
Know
breath
thyself.
in different situations?
Yeah, before you try
What gestures do you use?
and no other.
How do your facial expressions change?
Right.
Depending on your emotions.
Okay. Okay. So
So it's like becoming self-aware
become aware.
of our own nonverbal communication
you?
before we try to decode everyone else's.
Nonverbal cues,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
start paying attention to the people around you.
Yeah.
Notice how they use their bodies to communicate,
Okay.
how their expressions shift,
Okay.
how their posture changes,
Yeah.
depending on the context.
So we're like
Don't just listen to their words.
detectives.
Observe the entire symphony
Right.
of nonverbal cues
We're presenting.
to they're the clue.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like becoming a detective of human behavior,
Okay.
piecing together the clues
Yeah, like that.
to understand those hidden messages.
I'm a detective.
Right.
It's okay.
And as you become more attuned to
That's
these
it.
subtle signals,
Before we wrap up this part of the deep dive,
you'll be amazed at how much deeper
is that
your understanding of human interaction becomes.
anything
Oh,
else
right.
we need to talk about?
Well, one thing to keep in mind
Because
is that
it's
body language
practical applications.
is just one piece of the puzzle. It's important to consider the context,
right.
cultural norms,
Fair.
and individual differences.
Oh.
So what might be a clear signal
You can't just for one person.
could be completely different.
Oh, I saw them do this.
Or another.
So this means they definitely want me to.
Right. So it's not about applying a rigid set of rules,
Right.
but rather using body language as a tool to enhance our understanding and communication. It's about adding
another
layer of nuance and depth
Right.
to our interactions.
Yeah.
Whether we're navigating the complexities of romance,
Should have been
building stronger professional relationships, or simply trying to understand
interesting.
the people around us better.
So we've been talking about all these signs. Someone might want you to touch them,
Yeah.
but I think it's time to like zoom out
Okay.
and think about the bigger picture. Like, what does this all really mean
Right.
for people out there?
Yeah.
Right.
Our
People
listener
out there.
trying to navigate the often confusing world of dating and relationships.
Yeah, like
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
how do we
And I think the most important takeaway here
use this information?
is that attraction
Right.
and connection
Okay.
are multifaceted,
Yeah.
dynamic processes. Body language is just one layer, one channel of communication
Okay.
among many.
Well, then it's not just
that.
about
So it's not just about mastering
learning all the signals.
a set of secret signals.
It's about understanding
really
the
understand.
broader context
Right.
of human interaction.
The whole situation.
Absolutely
Because
right.
like you said,
Yeah.
everyone communicates.
Everyone communicates differently.
If-
And what might be a clear sign for one person
Right.
could be completely misinterpreted by another.
Okay. So if we can't just like
Right.
rely on
Okay,
a set of body language cues,
Yeah.
what's the best way
What's the best way to avoid
to make sure
misreading signals
that we're not
and ensure everyone's comfortable and
Let's
respected?
think reading the situation?
I'm glad you asked that because this is where
Okay.
clear, direct communication comes in. As much as we can
evidence?
learn, even if I think
From nonverbal cues.
I'm picking up on.
Nothing replaces
All the right
power-
signs
the power
of open and
But
honest
so now-
conversation.
verbally check in.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. So
Oh.
consent is paramount.
It's all about
And that means
making sure
having open and honest conversations
everybody's
about boundaries
comfort level.
and what you're both looking for
Right.
in the interaction.
Okay.
It's about making sure everyone feels
Yeah.
safe, respected.
So it's not
Decoding
empowered to express their needs.
body language.
Right.
It's about using it
That makes total sense.
as a springboard
So it's not just about
for decoding.
decoding body language.
Yeah.
It's about using that knowledge
Right.
as a springboard
Okay.
for deeper connection.
Yeah, this has been...
And understanding
For-
precisely.
Think of body language as a starting point, a way to gauge
Right.
initial interest
There's so much
and comfort levels.
you don't
But as the connection develops,
even realize.
it's crucial
Right.
to supplement those nonverbal cues
Yeah.
with clear
Okay.
verbal communication.
Last question.
Can ensure everyone's on the same page.
Before we wrap up
Right.
this deep dive,
Yeah, that's the beauty of exploring these topics.
what is like
It expands our awareness
one final thought?
and allows us to see human interaction in a whole new light.
You want to leave our listeners with
Yeah.
something for them to
So as we wrap up
stopping at?
this fascinating deep dive,
Yeah.
what's one final thought
Okay.
you'd like to leave our listeners with?
All right.
Something to ponder as they venture out into the world?
Hit us with it.
Armed with this newfound knowledge
Okay.
of body language
Mm,
and romantic cues,
yeah.
here's something to consider.
Okay.
Just as we've explored
Mm-hmm.
these potential signs of attraction,
Yeah.
what are the signs of disinterest or discomfort
Mm-hmm.
that we should be equally aware of?
Yeah.
Learning to recognize those cues
So it's not just
is just as important as
In here.
understanding the signals of invitation. It's about
I
being
really want to see.
respectful, responsible,
Aware of.
and attuned to the full spectrum
Right.
of human communication.
The other person.
Right, so it's
Okay.
not just
I get
about
it there.
focusing on what we want to see,
Communicating,
but also being mindful
even if it's not.
of what the other person is communicating, even if it's not what we hope to hear.
Want to hear.
It's about being perceptive,
Yeah, okay.
respectful.
This has been, and prioritizing clear communication above all else.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us
Exactly.
for this deep dive.
It's about approaching interactions with sensitivity
Awareness
and a genuine desire to understand
that people are giving off.
the other person's perspective.
Um,
Well said.
For our listeners out there,
Thanks for joining us
keep your eyes peeled,
on this incredible journey
your mind open,
into the fascinating world
and remember,
of body language,
communication is
their romantic cues.
a two-way street.
For our listeners out there,
So
keep those eyes peeled,
pay attention,
those minds open, and remember,
be mindful
communication is a two-way street,
of the signals.
so always be mindful,
of the signals you're sending
both sending
and receiving.
and receiving.
Until next time.
Until next time,
Happy decoding.
happy decoding.